Hi, welcome to Budget MTG Decks. All magic fun, all cards under $1. I'm David, and this is my Necromancer, Ruud.
Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about a fun and effective EDH deck you can build without breaking the bank. Now today's deck is going to be about raising an undead army. As with all our decks, there's just one additional build rule to the deck, and that's that all cards need to be under $1 in price, with one exception, and that is the commander. Now we have some lore about our commander from today first, so let's take a look.
Prowling in a graveyard. What better way to begin a story on Innistrad? Today the story belongs to Ghoulcaller Gisa. Armed with a shovel as her icon, Gisa is a necromancer and part of a pair of sibling rivals, the other being Stitcher Giraffe, who assembles and stitches zombies back together, while Gisa prefers to dig them up directly from the graveyard. Once part of the Sakani noble family in Thraben, the brother and sister lost their minds, as what happens from time to time on this crazy plane. They now call the desolate moorland home, where they wage war on each other with their personal armies of the dead. Giraffe began aspiring more complex creatures, assembling abominations like Grimgrin, named after the wicked smile on his sister's face. After a failed battle in Thraben, in which Michaeus the Lunarch dies, the siblings once again retreat to wage war on each other another day. They both continue their necromancy privately, as Giraffe joins forces with Ludovic in hopes of perfecting his technique and making more interesting monsters. During the cessation of hostilities, Gisa leaves the moorland and meets the planeswalker Nahiri, lending her zombies for the construction of the Drownyard Temple.
So our commander is Ghoulcaller Gisa. For 5 mana, we get a 3/4 human wizard, and she has an awesome ability. We can pay black, tap her, sacrifice another creature, and then we get to put down X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X was the sacrifice creature's power. So, what is going to be the role of the commander? It's going to be a sack outlet, so we can sacrifice stuff, and to be producing lots of beautiful zombies. So, what kind of cards do we need to make this work, Ruud?
We have 16 sacrifice targets, so targets that can be sacrificed by Gisa. Then we have 14 removal spells or creatures. We have 12 card advantage cards, and then we have 17 utility cards, we will see later. And of course we have 40 lands in the deck.
Yeah, so what's the ideal turn progression?
Well, at turn 1 most of the time we will do nothing. Then turn 2 we will have some mana ramp, mana artifacts. Then turn 3 some equipment, could be to equip Gisa with haste or hexproof, something like that. Then turn 4 a nice zombie put onto the battlefield. Turn 5 we will cast our commander and preferably equip it right away with something like hexproof or haste. And then turn 6 onward we will continue the process and remove some stuff, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So what is the most important thing? We need stuff to be able to sacrifice and stuff that has synergy with our zombies. So let's have a look at our sacrifice targets first. We divided the sacrifice targets into zombies and others. Now our zombies are basically there because it's a zombie tribal deck, so we like to have a lot of synergy with zombies. But should somebody want to remove them, destroy them, or we want to start getting a lot of tiny little zombies, they can also be very good sacrifice targets. Ruud, what's the first card that we have today?
First off we have a zombie Trailblazer. For 3 black mana we have a 2/2, and it has 2 abilities. One of which is to tap and untap zombie you control, and target land becomes a swamp until end of turn. Could be very handy to create, to make your opponent's lands into swamps. Really nasty.
That's nasty.
We could also tap a zombie to give another creature Swamp Walk. So that's very handy with the first ability, of course. We will have some very big zombies later on in the game, very big creatures, and they will get through when they have Swamp Walk, and the opponent will have a swamp.
Exactly. So you can either, tap half of your guys and attack with the other half, or as Ruud said already, we do have some possibilities of having one really big creature, and then that's super nice. And don't be that person that uses all your zombie tokens to completely shut somebody else out of the game by making all of their land swamp when they're playing other colors, because that's kind of nasty. Yeah. Next card is Phylactery Lich. For 3 mana we have a 5/5 zombie, and when Phylactery Lich enters the battlefield we put a phylactery counter on an artifact we control, and when there's no more permanents with phylactery counters on them we have to sacrifice Phylactery Lich. Lich. On the plus side though, Phylactery Lich is indestructible. So you have a 5/5 indestructible for 3 mana. You may say, okay, wait a second, but you do need an artifact. Don't worry, this deck actually has plenty of artifacts. So 9 out of 10 times you will just be able to pop it down super early and have a 5/5 indestructible. Awesome. Also not, which is kind of the same as the zombie Trailblazer, it has 3 black mana in its cost, which is kind of important for devotion. We'll see later there's a card that cares about that.
Next card is Diagraph Colossus. For 3 mana we get a 2/2, but it enters with a +1/+1 counter on it for each zombie card in our graveyard. And whenever we cast a zombie spell, we get to put down a zombie token, a 2/2 zombie token, tapped onto the battlefield. So very nice, will become really big later on in the game.
Yeah, and early on, okay, for 3 you get a 2/2, and then every zombie you cast after that gives you additional value. Pretty sweet. So good early, good late. Somebody wants to remove it, you say, okay, I'll just sack it and get those two zombies instead. Pretty sweet. Next one is Liliana's Reaver. For 4 mana, we get a 4/3 zombie with Death Touch. That's already a pretty good deal, right? Pretty decent body for that kind of investment. And additionally, when this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player has to discard a card, and we get to put down a 2/2 black zombie creature onto the token onto the battlefield tapped. So that's a lot of extra value. They lose a card, we get an extra zombie, we're dealing damage. People don't want to block it because it's got Death Touch. You can use it to block as well in a pinch. This card does a lot.
It does really a lot. Next card is Agent of Erebus. For 4 mana we get a 2/2 with Constellation. It's an enchantment creature. When it enters or another enchantment enters, we get to exile target player's graveyard. Pretty handy against graveyard decks, of course.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have to explain to you that in Commander, people really like to use their graveyards as an additional hand. Basically, this shuts that down completely. We can also sacrifice it to Gisa, Ghoulcaller Gisa, by sacking it using the ability, and then you get 2 zombies, and then it goes into the graveyard. Then there's ways to get this creature back into your hand, because we have the capability, cast it again, and then do it to somebody else's graveyard, for example, completely shutting them out of using their graveyard. So pretty sweet. And on top of that, we also have quite a few enchantments in the deck, so that'll also trigger when we play those.
Next card is Raving Dead. For 5 mana we get a 2/6 Death Touch creature. But what is really nice about this one is at the beginning of combat on your turn you get to choose an opponent. It has to attack the opponent, but when it does deal combat damage to a player, well, maybe it has Swamp Hole, that player loses half his or her life rounded down. So that's a lot of damage. It only does 2 by itself, of course, but well, half life is really nasty.
Yeah, the only downside to this card is that who this creature attacks is random. Of course, if you're playing one-on-one, it doesn't really matter, but in multiplayer, you're going to have maybe 3 or 4 other opponents. Sure, it's going to be random, but it doesn't matter because you're going to declare it, and then, for example, if you got that creature that gives the Swamp Walk, then you can always do that later on and make sure that Raving Dead is unblockable. Plus, it's Death Touch as well, so people don't really want to block it.
It's pretty nasty.
Anyway.
But it does have to attack, but
yeah,
it is pretty nasty, so you can't use it on the defense with its Death Touch.
That's true. That's true. Next card I really enjoy very much. It's Grey Merchant of Asphodel. For 5 mana, also known as Gary. We get a 2/4 zombie. You know, 5 mana, 2/4. It's okay. But when this guy enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black, and then you gain life equal to the life lost this way. Needless to say, it's not unusual to have your devotion when you cast this guy to be 7 or higher, so then everybody loses 7, and then you gain a ton of life. And actually, that's kind of important because not only do we want to be doing damage with this deck, we kind of want to be gaining life because we're playing mono black, so we're paying a lot of life to do a lot of cool stuff later on. So Grey Merchant of Asphodel helps with that. Not to mention we can sack it again and then get it back from the graveyard later on, play it again, and get extra value.
Do keep in mind though that the devotion will only be the black mana symbol, so it will not work on your zombie tokens since they do not have black mana symbols.
Correct.
They are black but don't have black mana symbols.
Correct.
Next card, Nauseous Goal. For 5 mana it's a 3/3, and when another zombie enters the battle, or itself or another zombie enters the battlefield, all non-zombie creatures get -1/-1. So some really nice synergy with putting down a lot of zombie tokens. It will kill Gisa, of course, because she only has 4 toughness, so if you put down more than 4 zombies, it will kill Gisa, but well, that's nice synergy, just killing everything and having a zombie army.
Yeah, essentially nice. your zombie tokens are 2/2, so if you would sack one of those every turn, then you're only doing -2/-2, so Gisa will just survive that easily. And of course, everything will get -2/-2, which will really put your opponents in a pinch. Other than that, it's a great little board wipe on a stick, right?
True.
Yeah. Next card, we have Dread Slaver for 5 mana. It's a 3/5, and when a creature dealt damage by this guy dies, we get to put it back onto the battlefield under our control, and it is a black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. I have yet to have this card get me back something huge, but that's because people are so afraid of it, because they realize that, okay, if this creature does deal damage and somebody has a removal spell, then they will take my creature away. So it really puts people in a conundrum about how they're going to attack, how they're going to block, because somebody might have a removal spell in addition to having Dread Slaver out.
Yeah, even if it doesn't trigger, it's still a nice threat. It's really annoying to have it on the battlefield.
True.
Then we have Pontiff of Blight. For 6 mana we get a 2/7 zombie, and it has Extort, and all other creatures you control will gain Extort. When this is on the battlefield, of course. So Extort means that when you play a spell, a creature or something else, you can pay an additional black mana in this case, and each opponent loses 1 life, you gain that much life. So really nice, especially late game. Well, this is 6 mana, so it will be late game, so really nice.
But of course, as Ruud said earlier, you're going to have a bunch of zombie tokens, and they will also have that Extort. So for every one of those, you can pay a mana. Everybody loses 1 life, you gain that much life. It's actually going to get you quite a bit of life later on as a mana sink. If not, it's a 2/7 with a big butt, which can block all day.
Sure.
Next, we have Nantuko Husk for 3 mana. It's a 2/2 zombie, and we can sacrifice a creature, and then this guy gets +2/+2 to the end of turn. You may think, just till the end of turn, you gotta sacrifice your creatures. Not that great. Sure, at the beginning of the game, putting this down, it is just a 2/2. But later on in the game, when you have a whole bunch of zombie tokens, you can just throw those all into Nantuko Husk. Nantuko Husk gets +2/+2 for each zombie token you throw into it. And then when it's a huge 20/20, you can sack it and get 20 2/2. So essentially, you're gonna be able to double the amount of creatures you already have on the battlefield with Nantuko Husk.
That's exactly the reason why this is in the deck. Really nice combo card. This deck, which you will see, has a lot of combinations, so you will need to search for one of those combos. A lot of ways to do that, so this is one of those ways.
Yeah.
Next one is, actually exactly the same. Phyrexian Ghoul.
Yeah,
same as Nantuko Husk.
Exactly the same. Yeah. Skirkdag High Priest is next for 2 mana. It's a 1/2. We're at the other creatures now. As you can see, this is not a zombie, but it is very good in this deck. Why? Because it has Morbid, which means that if a creature died this turn, we get to tap this guy plus 2 other creatures. Now, if we're playing with tokens, we should have 2 other creatures around. Then we get to put down a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Why is this cool? Well, you can sack a creature, you get this 5/5. Then, of course, later on, you can sack the 5/5 with Ghoulcaller Gisa. Then we get 5 zombies, and we can just tap 2 of those, plus Skirkdag High Priest, get ourselves another flying demon. How awesome is that? Every turn, a flying demon.
Really, really nice.
Plus all the tokens, of course, you get those.
Yeah, a lot of tokens. Really nice card to keep on creating tokens. Then we have Squelching Leeches for 4 mana. It's a card which power and toughness are equal to the number of swamps we control. Now we will have almost exclusively swamps, so it could be really big and a really nice sacrifice target.
Yeah, at the beginning of the game, usually it's a 4/4. Almost always it's a 4/4, and then it's attacking the next turn as a 5/5 usually. That is pretty impressive. Somebody says, oh, this is too much, I'm going to remove it. Then, of course, you're going to want to sack it to Ghoulcaller Gisa, and then you're going to get 5, 10, 15 tokens sometimes out of it, which is pretty sweet. Yeah. Another card which kind of works similarly, it's Wall of Blood for 3 mana. It's a 0/2 wall. You may think, what is this wall doing in this deck? This is kind of weird. We're doing zombies and you're putting in a wall. Well, it has an ability. It says pay 1 life. Wall of Blood gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. What's really nice at the beginning of the game, it's a 0/2. People say, I'm going to attack into you with my 4/4 and say, wait, I can pay mana to make it bigger, and then I'm going to kill your thing. People say, maybe not such a great idea. So it's good for stopping people from attacking you. And then later on, when you say, hey, I'm just going to pay, 15 life. It is Commander after all. We've got lots of life. And then we're going to sack it to Ghoulcaller Gisa, and then we're going to get ourselves our 15 2/2 zombie tokens, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, it will be 1 zombie token per 1 life you pay, so pretty
Good
nice deal.
Yeah.
Then we have Minion of the Wastes. For 6 mana, we get a XX trample creature, and when it enters the battlefield, you can pay any amount of life, and its power and toughness will be equal to that amount. So quite similar. You pay 15 or maybe more, I don't know, and you can sacrifice it right away or a little later on to gain all the zombie tokens.
Yeah, you don't have to do it right away. After all, I mean, having a 15/15 trampler, being able to attack with that, people are gonna have to find a way to remove it, and in response to them trying to remove it, you're gonna sack it and get tons and tons of zombies.
Exactly.
Awesome. Those are the sacrifice targets. Let's have a look at the removal cards.
So we divided our removal spells into targeted removal spells, sacrifice removal, so the opponent needs to sacrifice something of their own choosing, and then we have board wipes, of course. The first one is Tragic Slip. For just 1 mana, instant speed, we can give a creature -1/-1, but of course why it's in there is because of Morbid. When a creature dies, maybe you sacrifice something, you can give target creature -13/-13, so it will kill almost anything.
Yeah, and needless to say, those minus things, they're gonna go get around creatures with indestructible, which is pretty sweet when people think, I got my creature protected. Nuh-uh. Those are -1/-1, well, not counters, but it's -1/-1, so the toughness goes below 0, so even indestructible creatures would die to this.
Also regenerate wouldn't work.
Also, good point, yeah. Next one, we have Sudden Spoiling for 3 mana. It's an instant as well. And it has Split Second, which means as long as the spell is on the stack, other people can't play any spells, which means that people can't react to the spell. That's basically what it means. And what it states is that until end of turn, creatures target player controls lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 0/2. Okay, this is not really target, you're targeting a player, obviously. All their creatures become 0/2s with no abilities. That's of course super nasty when somebody attacks you with a whole bunch of creatures that they think you can't stop because you only have a few 2/2 zombies perhaps. Now all of a sudden all those things are 0/2s and your zombies can kill them all. Very nice against people who think that they got the upper hand with big fatties. Not anymore.
Really insane. Then we have Tendrils of Corruption for 4 mana. It's an instant speed that deals X damage to target creature and you gain X life, or X is the number of swamps you control. So as we said before, we will have a lot of swamps. In addition to this removal spell, some life gain. So pretty nice.
Yeah, exactly. Very early in the game, deal 4 damage, going to kill pretty much all the relevant creatures with very interesting abilities. Later on in the game, it'll just kill pretty much anything. Next, we have a Stronghold Assassin for 3 mana. We get a 2/1 zombie. This guy is a zombie. And this guy can tap, sacrifice a creature, so one of our zombie tokens, for example, and then destroy target non-black creature. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of creatures to sacrifice, so why not take one of our opponent's creatures down with them?
Yeah, of course it is only non-black creature. You have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And of course you do need a sacrifice target. It's something small to sacrifice. You don't want to sacrifice your big creature. You would rather sacrifice to Ghoulcaller Gisa, of course.
True.
So still a very nice card. It does have to tap, so it doesn't do it right away. But
Unless
when it
you got
stays
one
on
of
the
the haste
battlefield,
things. Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
will be really nice. Then we have Skin Render, 4 mana, a 3/3, and when it enters, put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature. Pretty simple, straightforward removal. Goes around, regenerate, and indestructible again.
Yeah.
Only 3.
Additionally, we can of course sack it, get 3 zombies, and then with our graveyard recursion, get it back and play it again, give something else -3. Pretty nice.
Pretty nice.
Could repeat it. Next card is one of my favorite cards in this deck, and unfortunately it's not a zombie. It's Orc Sure Shot for 4 mana. It's a 4/2 Orc Archer. So already the 4 power means we can kill it to get 4 zombies. Not too shabby. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, target creature and opponent control gets -1/-1 until the end of turn. Needless to say, if we sack, for example, Skin Render, we're going to get 3 zombies, and with Orc Sure Shot on the battlefield, we get to give something else -3/-3, or distribute that and kill 3 1/1s. Yeah. Very versatile.
Very nice. Next card is Drana, Calastria Bloodchief, a vampire in the zombie tribal deck. Some companion of Gisa, I think.
Yeah.
It's a flying creature, it's a 4/4, and it has a very nice removal ability. For X and 2 black mana, we get to give target creature -0/-X. So also, again, it goes around, regenerate, and indestructible. And Calastria Bloodchief gets +X +0, so it will gain more power. So this is really nice as a sacrifice outlet, a target for Gisa, of course.
Yeah.
You just get rid of something big, and you make this a 10/4 maybe, and you get 10 zombies. Really nice.
Remember to attack first, because it's got flying anyway, so you might even do 10 damage. And then they might say, okay, I'm really going to have to remove her. And you say, all right, well, then I get 10 zombies in that example.
Really nice.
Then we come to the last one, and that is Scour from Existence. For 7 mana, we get an instant and states exile target permanent. Okay, we're talking about Commander. We're talking about trying to get efficient spells. 7 mana to get rid of one thing, that is excessive. That's something that we normally would not recommend because it's just too much to get rid of one thing. You're trading one card, plus you're investing mostly all of your mana probably. Why is this card in here? We're playing mono black. We can get rid of a lot of creatures, as we saw already. We can deal a lot of damage. We can have a lot of creatures with tokens, and we can have a lot of very, very big creatures. Problem is, sometimes people have an piece of artifact or an enchantment, and we want the possibility to be able to get rid of that. And Scour from Existence gives us that ability. And it can also get rid of a creature should the need become dire. And it gets around indestructible as well because it says exile.
It just does anything you want, but you have to pay a lot of mana for it.
Exactly.
Next up we have sacrifice removal spells. First one is a Flashback Marauder. For 3 mana we get a 3/1 creature, and when it enters, each player sacrifices a creature, including you, of course.
True.
You could sacrifice the Marauder itself. It's a possibility, especially when you need to get rid of something big. Do keep in mind that you can't get around this sacrifice statement, this sacrifice thing, by sacrificing itself on Gisa, because you will still have to sacrifice something else later on then.
But that's okay, because you can, of course, sacrifice Flashback Marauder to Gisa. You get 3 zombies, and of course, it's still on the stack, so you still got to sacrifice something. Sure, you sacrifice one of those zombies, then you're still left with 2 zombie tokens. So you're up 2 zombie tokens, and they all had to sacrifice something.
True.
Kind of similar card. Next is Siphon Flesh for 5 mana. It's a sorcery. It states that each other player sacrifices a creature. So now it's each other player. Now you don't have to anymore.
No.
And you get to put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield for each creature sacrificed this way. So if you're playing a 4-player game, which is conservative in Commander, you're going to make them lose a creature. They lose 3 creatures total, and you get 3 zombie tokens. Not a bad deal for 5
Really
mana.
nice. The next card, Reign of the Pit. For 6 mana, we will get a sorcery, and each player, including you, sacrifices a creature, and you get an XX black demon creature with flying, where X is the total power of the creature sacrificed.
Yeah, so
really nice. Really
worst
big.
case scenario, you're probably going to end up with a 6/6 flying demon.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And they still have to get rid of creatures as well.
True.
So needless to say, that is always good. Next we go to the board wipes. Our first one is Mutilate for 4 mana. It's a sorcery. All creatures get -1/-1 till the end of turn for each swamp you control. As you saw already, this deck has no problem with creatures with regenerated indestructible. Mutilate is no exception, giving everything -5, -5, or -6, or maybe even -7, -7 later on in the game. Almost nothing survives that, and then you get to start again with at your own convenience.
Exactly. The next one is Extinguish All Hope. For 6 mana, we get to destroy all non-enchantment creatures at sorcery speed. Well, we don't have a lot of enchantment creatures. We do have some, but not a lot. But it's just in there because we really needed another board wipe. We need some time to get the deck rolling. And well, maybe it's necessary to have a solution like this.
Yeah, we're not the fastest deck. This deck is not super explosive. It does have a lot of good combos that allows it to later on in the game really get out of hand very quickly. But sometimes, yeah, you do need a board wipe, and Extinguish All Hope does a pretty decent job at that. Next one we have Necromantic Selection for 7 mana, a little bit more expensive, also sorcery. This one also destroys all creatures, but then we get to return a creature that died this way back onto the battlefield under our control, and it becomes a zombie. That is pretty cool. We do have to exile this card afterwards, but you know, everybody lost all their creatures, and we get the best thing that was on the battlefield at that time under our control, and it's a zombie, so pretty flavorful.
Really, really nice.
Yeah. Well, those are the removal cards. Let's have a look at the card advantage cards. The card advantage cards are very important in this deck. Why? Because we're sacrificing cards, we're losing creatures, we're throwing them into our graveyard, and we need ways to either get more cards into our hand or use the cards from our graveyard to get some kind of tempo advantage. We're going to look at the draw cards first, and the first one is Dark Prophecy for 3 mana. It's an enchantment. It states that whenever a creature you control dies, you draw a card and you lose a life. Well, normally, cards like this say whenever a non-token creature you control dies. In this case, it just says creature, which means all our tokens, when they die, they get to replace themselves with a card. We do have to pay a life, which is why we said it's very important that we have ways to gain life as well. and make sure that we don't have 1,000 zombies on the battlefield and this card at the same time, and then a board wipe would essentially kill us. But in the situation where that's not the case, we're actually getting a major tempo advantage from this card.
Yeah, so it might be not the best idea to create a really big army when this is on the table. You would have to search for some other ways, some other combinations to make a really great board state. So you wouldn't use it with Nantuko Husk or something like that, of course, like sacrificing a lot of creatures.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we have Underworld Connection. For 3 mana we get to enchant a land, and it has tap the land, pay life, draw a card. So just really nice, simple, straightforward card advantage.
Yeah, just draw a card every turn and pay a life. Yeah. Next card is Greed for 4 mana, also an enchantment. It says pay a black, pay 2 life, and draw a card. Okay, now we have to pay an extra life, and that's pretty much the only difference when you think about it.
Yes, sort of, but the other difference is that you can do this multiple times, of course.
True, there's no end to the amount you can pay for this.
Then we have Graveborn Muse. For 4 mana, it's a 3/3 zombie. In the beginning of our upkeep, we draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of zombies we control. So again, not really handy to have a really big zombie army when this is on the table. But well, other ways we can make the deck work. So really nice to have some nice draw in the deck.
Yeah, at the beginning, of course, you have to realize that she's also a zombie. She counts herself. So even if you just got Ghoulcaller Gisa and the Graveborn Muse, you're losing life and gaining 1 card every turn just from this girl. Additionally, when you get 2 or 3 zombies, you might think, okay, I'll lose 2 or 3 extra life, get another, keep my hand nice and full. When this starts to get out of control and you've got the cards you need, and you think, okay, now it's going to get dangerous, then you just sack her.
Exactly, that's how you do it. You just sack the cards you don't need anymore.
Yeah, and Graveborn Muse might be dangerous at that point, so just get rid of her, and you can, because you've got your commander who does that.
Exactly. Then we have Corpse Harvester. For 5 mana we get a 3/3 zombie, and for 2 mana and tapping it and sacrificing a creature, we can search our library for a zombie and a swamp card and put them into our hand. Shuffle our library afterwards, of course.
Yeah, it may seem like it's a bit expensive for 5 mana, but later on it's going to give you so much tempo, gaining you basically sacking a token to get you 2 cards. And the nice thing, of course, is that you get to search for the exact zombie which you may need at that point in time.
Exactly.
Next one is Bloodgift Demon for 5 mana. It's a 5/4 demon, so not a zombie this time, but it's really good because at the beginning of your upkeep, target player draws a card and loses 1 life. Again, kind of like Graveborn Muse, we're going to be using it like that, drawing a card, losing a life. And yeah, push comes to shove, they want to get rid of this big beater in the air. We sack it, and then we get 5 zombies.
Exactly, very, very nice. Then we have Corpse Augur. For 4 mana, it's a 4/2 zombie. And when it dies, we draw X cards and lose X life, or X is the number of creature cards in target player's graveyard. So we get to choose a player, and well, we have some control over how much life we will lose and how much cards we will draw.
Yeah, exactly. The great thing is, of course, it does count itself when it goes into our own graveyard. So even if there's nothing in there, we're still going to draw a card and lose a life. And for 4 mana, remember, it's got 4 power, which means if we sack it, we get 4 2/2s on top of that, which is also a great, great deal. Next card, kind of similar, Disciple of Bolas. For 4 mana, we get a 2/1 Human Wizard. Again, this is a Human Wizard, same as Ghoulcaller Gisa, so they're in cahoots. That's why
it's a buddy. It's a buddy.
Buddy's in there helping out with the necromancy. And when this guy enters the battlefield, sacrifice another creature. Then we gain X life and draw X cards, where X is that creature's power. Remember, we've got ways to get our creatures really big. Then we can also sack them either to get lots of zombies, or we can sack it to Disciple of Bolas, getting a ton of life and draw a ton of cards. Nice little versatility there.
Really nice. This time around, it's gain life. Pretty handy.
Good difference. Good difference.
Then we have the graveyard recursion cards. The first one is Phyrexian Reclamation. For 1 mana we get an enchantment, and for 2 mana and pay 2 life it is, we get to return target creature card from our graveyard to our hand.
What black deck does not love this card?
Really nice.
It is, it's so good. It's really hard to not include this card in every black deck pretty much, because it's such a great deal.
Commander decks, yeah.
Beautiful. Next card, Palace Siege for 5 mana. It's an enchantment, and we have to choose Khans or Dragons when it comes in. If we choose Khans, then at the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. That's super nice, of course, because then every turn we're going to get something back. Every turn we can sack that, say, cast it, and then sack it to Ghoulcaller Gisa. Then every turn, again, next one, pick it up again. Awesome recursion that way. You could also pick dragons, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 2 life and gains 2 life. As we said already, sometimes it might be that we want to get a little bit of life every turn just to keep us in the green, let's say, in a safe area. But most of the time, we're probably going to be taking cons, right?
Almost always. I don't really remember when I picked dragons.
No, but it's a possibility, and that's flexibility right there, yeah.
Then we have Phyrexian Delver. For 5 mana, we get a 3/2 zombie, and when it enters, we get to return a creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield. So not to our hand, to the battlefield. And we lose life equal to the converted mana cost.
Yeah, our zombies aren't that expensive actually, so we're going to be losing 3 to 5 mana max, life max, but we get 2 bodies when we cast this, and that is going to put us in a nice position, actually.
Really true.
Then the final card, and that is the epitome of flavor for this deck. It is the Zombie Apocalypse card for 6 mana. It's a sorcery. We get to return all zombie creature cards from our graveyard to the battlefield, tap, then destroy all humans. This is a great sacrifice to do when you've got a Ghoulcaller Gisa out, but remember, black is all about ambition. It's all about weighing the cost-benefit analysis. We're not afraid to sack our commander or let our commander die for the greater good, or for our case, the greater benefit, and putting down 4 or 5 zombies, which may trigger because they get enter the battlefield abilities, can be huge. And yeah, high risk, high reward, but I think it's when you cast this usually, and of course our opponent's creatures who are humans will also die.
This is really a card that's against some control decks when you have a really late game. There won't be a lot of zombies in your graveyard mid-game, so only late game when you have an opponent which destroys a lot, then this will become really helpful and get you back into the game, back to a winning position.
Yeah, it's really cool when you have a card that can actually turn you from a position where you were losing to being able to win. You know, you've got, for example, Grey Merchant of Asphodel could be in there. It sees all the other creatures that come in with the devotion. You may gain 20 life, put -1/-1 counters on it, and have a fantastic board state afterwards. So it really always turns around games. I love it. Those are the card advantage cards. Now let's have a look at some of the utility spells.
We divided our utility cards into equipment cards, anti-board wipe cards, and mana ramp cards. The first one of the equipment cards is Swiftfoot Boots. For 2 mana we get an equipment, and equipped creature has hexproof and haste. We get to equip it for 1 mana. So when we have this on the battlefield, we will preferably cast Gisa 1 turn later, so we can give her hexproof and haste right away to sacrifice a creature right away.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty nice. Next card we have is Haunted Cloak for 3 mana. It's got equip for 1. And equipped creature has vigilance, trample, and haste. We already said before we've got ways of getting creatures really big. For example, like our Phyrexian Husk. What was it called again? Nantuko Husk, for example, get really big. You put this on that guy, comes in, immediately you sacrifice creatures to it, it becomes really big. It's got vigilance, so it doesn't tap. You attack with it because it's got haste and it's got trample. It's hard to block. You're doing tons and tons of damage, and it came out of nowhere. Pretty sweet, and that for only an equip cost of 1.
Next one is Loxodon Warhammer. For 3 mana, equipped creature gets +3/+0 and has trample and lifelink. Lifelink could be really handy. And of course the +3 attack power, also really handy to sacrifice it to Gisa.
Sure.
You get to equip it for 3 mana.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you've got a 2/2 zombie token, you pay 3 mana to equip it, becomes a 5/2, you attack with it. Whether they block or not, it's got trample, so you're dealing tons of damage. You gain 5 life, then you sack it, you get 5 more 2/2s. And then next turn you repeat, you rinse and repeat.
Exactly.
Then we get a super great card, and it's kind of redundant, super great, but it is really super great awesome. This card in this deck is called Nightmare Lash for 4 mana. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each swamp you control, and it's got an equip cost of 3 life. Well, as we already said, we love paying life in this deck. That's what we're doing all the time to get an advantage, and being able to give your creature +7/+7 or +8/+8 right off the bat makes your zombie tokens almost go into the double digits. And of course, the equip cost, you can just pop it for 3 life onto another creature once you're done attacking.
Exactly. Of course, really nice to have sacrifice outlets, maybe Loxodon Warhammer onto it. Like we said before, creating big creatures, this is one of those cards that does that. The next one does it too. It's Lash Wraith. Do I say that?
Lash Wraith.
Lash Wraith.
Yeah.
I pronounce it like that. Okay. For 4 mana, we get a germ token, 0/0 germ token, right away equipped onto this equipment. But we can over-equip it for 2 mana or 2 life, or 4 life, or 2 life and 1 mana.
Yeah. So basically, just 2 Phyrexian black.
2 Phyrexian mana. That's true. And equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each swamp we control.
Yeah, so it's essentially the same. We can, instead of paying 3 life, we could pay 4 life if you want to. And the additional benefit of getting already a 0/0 token right off the bat, so you can already swing with it next turn. Or sacrifice it right away, because it's already going to be a pretty big creature to Gisa. Then we have Strata Scythe for 3 mana, so it's a little bit cheaper to cast. It's got Imprint, which means that when it enters the battlefield, we have to search through our library and then toss out a land card. We're going to exile that, and then shuffle our library. Equipped creature has +1/+1 for each land on the battlefield with the same name as the exiled card. Now this is not that we control, so we're going to exile a swamp, and he's going to get +1/+1 not for all the swamps we have, but on the battlefield. So that includes your opponent's swamp. So this means that creature that you equip this thing onto could become astronomically huge. And then again, when people block it or want to destroy it, we're going to sack it to get an even larger amount of zombie tokens. Pretty sweet.
Really, really sweet. The next card is Fallen Ideal.
Not really equipment.
Yeah, it's not equipment. It's an enchantment, of course. For 3 mana, we get to enchant a creature, and it has flying, and we get to sacrifice a creature, and the creature will get +2/+1. So sort of an inbuilt Nantuko Husk sort of thing.
You could turn something into a Nantuko Husk.
And well, it doesn't have the drawback from most enchantments, because when it goes into a graveyard, we can put it into our hand again, the Fallen Ideal that is. So really nice, we just get it back when we sacrifice the creature. Really nice.
Yeah, that's why it's here, because it kind of works like the artifacts. You know, you're gonna equip it onto a creature. That creature is gonna die because we sacrificed it. We pumped it up full of other creatures. We get lots of zombies. Then that card goes in the graveyard. We return it to our hand. Next turn we do it again. So it's kind of the same idea. We do have to remember is that if we cast it onto one of our creatures, let's say one of our zombie tokens, and then somebody in response to that uses a removal spell to kill that creature, then that card does go into the graveyard, because it didn't go into the graveyard from the battlefield, because it never actually hit the battlefield. So that's one of the ways that people can use to actually get rid of that card.
Of course it's possible. Yeah, always.
Let's have a look now at the anti-board wipe cards. The reason why these are important is because, of course, we do need to sometimes wipe the board, but in essence, we just want to have lots and lots of tokens. And we don't like it when other people wipe the board when we've got so many nice 2/2 zombies flooding the board state. And we want to punish people who board wipe us in that situation. And the first card that helps us do that is Zulaport Cutthroat for 2 mana. It's a 1/1 human rogue ally, an ally of Gisa. And it states that whenever this guy or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Well, you know, you want to kill my 20 zombies? Great. That means you're going to lose, everybody's going to lose 20 life, or actually 21, because you can count Zulaport Cutthroat as well. And then we gain 1 life for each creature that died this way.
Exactly, really, really nice. Now, of course, we can also use it to finish off the game with our own board wipe when this is on the table. Also possible.
True, yeah.
Then we have Falkenrath Noble for 4 mana. It's a 2/2 flying vampire, and it has basically the same. Whenever this one or another creature dies, target player loses a life, you gain a life.
Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive because you're flying and it's got a little bit of power and toughness, but essentially the same story.
But this time around it is another creature, not another creature you control. So that is a little different. That
is actually going to make it a little bit more interesting, because if other people are playing tokens as well, it becomes doubly threatening. Good point. Next card we have is Overseer of the Damned for 7 mana. It's actually one of our more expensive spells. We get a 5/5 demon with flying, and when this guy enters the battlefield, we get to destroy target creature. Pretty nice, kind of doubles as a removal spell. And whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, we get to put down a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield tapped. This is, again, we're setting up our board, we're putting down lots of zombies, other people are also playing creatures, and then if somebody wipes the board, then that's okay, because we're going to get creatures equal to the non-token creatures that other people lost as well, and that kind of keeps our board state happy, in a happy state. Yeah.
Exactly, very, very nice. Then the last of the anti-board wipe cards, Grave Betrayal. It's an enchantment which costs 7 mana, and whenever a creature you don't control dies, we get to return it to the battlefield under our control with a +1/+1 counter on it, and it will be a zombie, so really nice.
Yeah, so don't wipe the board because then all your creatures become our creatures.
Exactly.
And they're zombies, which means it's flavorful. Now we get to go to the mana ramp cards. We don't have that many of them, but just a few just to help us out. First one is Charcoal Diamond for 2 mana. It's an artifact. Comes in tap, but we can tap it for a black mana. Basically.
Next one, Thought Vessel for 2 mana. It does have, you have no maximum hand size anymore. Could come in handy when we draw a lot of cards.
True.
It does happen sometimes. And it adds 1 colorless mana to our mana pool.
Yeah, next Mind Stone, also for 2 mana. We can tap it for a colorless mana, and we can also pay a mana, tap it, and then sacrifice it to draw a card. So later on, when we're mana flooded, get rid of it, draw a card.
Really nice. Then we have, well, not really mana ramp, it's really different, we didn't know where to put it, so it's here. Twisted Abomination for 6 mana, it's a 5/3 zombie mutant. For just 1 black mana we need to regenerate it. But the reason why it's here, it has swamp cycling. We can just cycle it for a swamp, so to make sure that we do get our land drop the next turn.
Yeah, in essence, of course, just so we're looking at the Charcoal Diamond, Thought Vessel, Mind Stone. We're playing those all, let's say, on turn 2. Twisted Abomination, same story. On turn 2, we're just going to cycle it, toss it into the graveyard. We get that swamp, we can play it next turn. Make sure we get lots and lots of swamps, because remember, we want to have this deck cares about that. And additionally, we throw a creature into our graveyard, which we might be able to get back later on, swamp cycle again, or later on hard cast it. We got a 3/2 with regenerate. It's not the end of the world. Yeah, next one, Unstable. Unstable Obelisk. We were both too excited. We really wanted to do this card, both of us, so we tried to do it together. Didn't work. Unstable Obelisk for 3 mana. It's an artifact which taps for a colorless. And for 7 mana, we can tap it and then sacrifice it and destroy target permanent. Remember, we had the card that could exile any permanent. That was important. This is the other card that allows us to do that. Normally, it's just mana ramp. Fine. Push comes to shove. Worst case scenario, somebody's got an artifact or enchantment that we just need to get rid of. Unstable Obelisk says, all right, I'll get rid of it. I'm going to kill myself.
Something really bad, which states that we don't attack, we can't attack anymore, something like that. Later on in the game, we can just remove that.
Yeah.
Then we have Magus of the Coffers for 5 mana. It's a 4/4 human wizard, and for 2 mana we get to tap it and add 1 black mana to our mana pool for each swamp we control. So let's say next turn we do that. When this comes onto the battlefield, we have 6 mana. So for 2 we will get 6 back. So we will gain 4 mana.
Not too bad. And later on, it's going to get really out of hand, because after all, this deck has plenty of swamps, and we got ways to get more. So we care about that. So this is definitely going to give us plenty of mana. Those are the utility cards. Let's have a look at the lands. We divided the lands into 37 swamps and 3 non-basics. As we said already, we really care about those swamps. Let's have a look at the 3 non-basic lands that made the cut. First one is Bojuka Bog. When it enters the battlefield, it comes in tapped, it gives us a black, but we get to exile all cards from target player's graveyard. We already saw that we have another way of doing this, but this card is really good because it also doesn't take up another slot because it goes into our lands, so it's a great inclusion.
Then we have Buried Ruin. It's a land that gives only a colorless mana, but we can sack it and pay 2 mana, and we get to return target artifact from our graveyard to our hand. As we just saw, we have some really great artifacts which when they get destroyed, we will really want to get it back. So this can do that.
Exactly. Then we have Crypt of Agadim. It comes in tapped, and we can tap it for a black, but we can also pay 2 mana, tap it, and then add black to your mana pool for each black creature card in our graveyard. All our creatures are black. Late game is going to generate us tons of mana. Early game, well, we're just going to tap it for black as if it was any other swamp.
Exactly.
Those are the lands. Let's have a look at the conclusion. In conclusion, this deck is a lot of fun. I mean, this is zombie tribal. Sure, there's a few cards in there which are not zombies. They're helping out Ghoulcaller Gisa, her being human as well. But in essence, the zombie flavor is all over. We've got all these great zombies that have all such versatile abilities. You're popping them down, you're using Gisa to get even more zombie tokens. You really get the feeling of that zombie apocalypse, pushing that onto your opponents. Then one of your zombies becomes huge because of our artifacts, or it could be the Nantuko Husk type creature. It becomes massive. You can swing in it. Maybe they can't block it. Maybe they can. Maybe it's got trample. It doesn't matter. You're doing so much damage with one huge creature. Plus, you still got all your smaller creatures to either leave to block or attack with as well, and just destroy multiple people simultaneously. People want to destroy your stuff. You can respond to it by sacrificing it. You've got some removal. You've got some mana acceleration. You can board wipe should things become a little bit too sticky. all in all, so much fun to play this because you can go both tall and you can go wide, and that in mono black, which is quite hard to build to begin with, I would say.
Yeah. As we just saw, there are a lot of possible combinations in this deck which are really strong, so you have to look out for one of those combinations, and if one of those combos gets destroyed, you will have another one right away. There are a lot of possibilities, making one big creature, making a lot of small creatures, destroying everything of your opponent. There are a lot of possible combinations, and that's really nice. The games will be could be really insane and in really different ways. So when you play a lot of games, you will see that the deck works in different ways. That's
exactly.
really nice.
Which is, you wouldn't say that because you're limiting yourself with mono black to one color. You would say that the versatility would be at a minimum, but actually there's a lot of different ways that you can play this deck, and we didn't put any tutors in except for the one zombie that can search for other zombies. But in essence, that means that every game is going to be completely different, and that is what I really like about it as well. On top of that, it's pretty affordable, right?
Yeah, the deck is just below $35, and we did the math on magiccards.info and used all the median prices. This site combines combines all the prices of a lot of sites together and looks at their average price, so you can really buy this deck for under $35, and that is including all the lands and including the commander.
Exactly, yeah. Check out the deck list below, that's in the description, so just check out what all the cards are again, peruse that later on. What we're also going to ask you to do is click that subscribe button and join us on Facebook and join us on Twitter. Why? Because it lets us know we're doing a good job. It helps get the word out. On top of that, it's a great way for us to talk with you. You can send us messages, for example, via Twitter. You can tweet at us and then we can respond, answer questions, and we can discuss future projects that we'll be doing, such as deck techs for Commander or Modern, for example. Ruud, do we also have a question of the day today?
Yeah, of course we have one, and that is, how much money did you ever spend on a EDH deck? The most money you ever spent, of course, that is. You can leave your answer in the comments below this video.
Yeah, so in essence, just what's your most expensive deck that you've ever built or have at this time? We're very curious about that since we're a budget channel, so we don't really have very expensive decks.
That's true.
So, well, I guess that's it. I'm David.
And I'm Ruud.
And this was Budget MTG Decks.